as I tripped over everything in my
that's
office.
good.
Well, wait, to everyone.
Do I need the bottle that I'm drinking, or can I just say what it is?
No
when
one's
we're
going to
talking about
believe
it?
you, Brandon, if you don't produce the bottle. Go grab the bottle.
It's Pappy 23.
It's old-fashioned copper. Just flexing. That's all.
Okay, Mitch, you have a bottle. I know that Graham is always prepared. I'm wearing a shirt that I think I've worn literally at every episode that we've shot. People are going to keep track of our wardrobes. No, but I think they're going to be more interested in Mitch's.
They're more about your haircut, Dan.
Graham, absolutely, and probably Mitch's collection of T-shirts
and my statue.
Your statue. I think what we have to ease into that, guys.
Yeah,
it's right there.
Welcome. This is December 26th, the day after Christmas, and this is our inaugural podcast of United States of Bourbon, having just dropped our very first episode, Season 1, Episode 1, from Woodford Reserve, featuring the dynamic Elizabeth McCall. So I don't know if people have watched it yet. I hope people watch it. You can go to our YouTube channel, United States of Bourbon, and we're going to be releasing an episode every other week. And those weeks in between, the four of us are hopefully going to gather and talk about the experience. But, it's very interesting for our inaugural podcast. The note that I got from a lot of friends was, nobody knows who you guys are. I'm like, they probably know who Mitch is, but I feel like if you watch the trailer, we kind of introduce ourselves, but then we just assume that people. I mean, I always assume people know who I am. I can't leave my apartment building without people being like, "Yo, Dan, yo, what, yo, can you?
Where's my money?"
Yeah.
But we.
Are you Daniel Cutner? Here's your papers.
No, that's my immigrant wife, Mitch. But we build this, and we are a group of artists from various disciplines. I'm Dan Cutner, director of musical theater. We have.
I'm Graham Rowett, and I'm an actor.
I'm Mitch Gerrits, and I draw men in tights.
Mitch is a very prominent illustrator for DC Comics, my friends. Brandon? Yeah,
isn't that what I said?
Something like that.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Why don't you give me my sizzle bump, Dan? Graham's just being modest. He's a Broadway act. You give me that.
I thought you
like
said
you
that.
did for Mitch. I just said I'm an actor.
A terrific
also
actor who's worked on who works continuously on the Broadway.
Thank you. Oh, you didn't have to say. Oh, you're sweet.
And he's apparently made out of pixels.
Yeah.
Brandon, you're always billed as the quiet one, but why don't you just tell the nice folks at home who you are?
I'm Brandon, and I'm just happy to be here.
Okay, Brandon off camera was telling us, because we were sort of flexing our muscles, and as he's the only one who really in earnest goes to the gym, and well, Graham does, but do you lift the way Brandon does, Graham? I don't think anybody does, but Brandon's an award-winning composer of the No Sleep podcast. Just won a major award for Slay the Princess video game that he's the composer for.
Camera.
He does,
I like it.
I didn't even realize
symphonies,
it was in the shot.
He does horror movies. He's really eclectic, but he won't open his goddamn mouth, and I don't understand why.
Not true. Season 2, we get rowdy.
Season 2 coming in hot. At Dan's expense.
Yeah, listen, all of the respect and all the deference that I'm given in season 1 is out the window. Season 2, I feel. Guys, here we are, the day after Christmas. Did everyone have a good holiday?
Indeed.
Good.
Yeah. One of the rare Christmases where I got 8 hours of sleep before getting woken up.
And one of the rare Christmases where the first night of Hanukkah and Christmas coincide. So all of our Jewish friends out there, Me.
Yeah, that's why I said Happy Hanukkah Eve to you, Dan, and you just I don't know. You texted us and just threw your phone out the window
I
because you
always
never respond to
That's
anything
the
that we
Dan
say.
special.
Dan special. Listen,
Yeah.
you are the oil lasted for 8 nights, and the phone is not part of that. Okay, so the phone goes out the window. You concentrate on the oil, gentlemen.
On the oil.
Dan's
I have to
phone works
tell
on
you,
oil.
it might. I have to tell you, this has been a wild ride so far. I'm so excited about our launch, Woodford Reserve Season 1, Episode 1. My God, if we had any insecurities whatsoever, that should all be dispelled by the fact that Master Distiller Elizabeth McCall is just a star. I, as a viewer, wasn't even paying attention to myself or you three clowns, and the amount of information and how terrific that brand is and how terrific all those people are over there, I thought was just astonishing.
It helps because it draws away from the fact that Brandon and I barely talk.
Your eye candy.
We're just the eye candy.
I think
Mitch.
you're
Yeah,
shouting,
we're just
right? We have
there,
a little cliffhanger, and if you haven't seen the episode, please watch the episode because part 2 will be us tasting a few things, chatting a bit more. But season what we are attempting to do is we are rediscovering America through our unique spirit, which is bourbon. And coming from all these different disciplines, coming from the world of acting and directing and illustration and musical composition, we all have a love for this thing, which is, and I think we text each other every damn day on our little chat, don't we?
Oh, easily.
Some of us.
Once you
Yeah,
fished your
most
phone
of us.
back out of the front lawn and
So
brought it back
is
in.
it the bourbon connection, or do we just love each other?
Bourbon for sure.
Yeah, you're speaking of the bourbon. I mean, listen, it's the 26th, right? Day after Christmas. I know it's a work day. Are we? I'm drinking something. Are we all drinking something? Tell me what
it's
you're
late
drinking.
enough in the day. This is. I'll start. This was because Dan, you and Mitch had a Joseph A. Magnus awakening.
Ooh, did you buy the
last week,
cigar blend, my friend?
And I did. So I had been hearing about this. I've always seen the bottle around. I've seen it behind glass. I've wondered. And then Dan, you opened it last week and were raving. And Mitch pulled out another Joseph Magnus bottle from the back of his closet. And
They're
grab
wonderful, and from what I understand, it's a blend of like 18-year-old and 11-year-old bourbon, and it's curated by a legend in the bourbon industry named Nancy Fraley, who has a nickname Nancy the Nose. I think she's a bourbon gangster. I can't wait.
I was gonna say, is she in the mob?
And I would.
Dick
This
Tracy
is like
villain?
season 3 or the end of season
Right.
2. I'm not quite sure. We have not met her yet. But
Is she now? Now you pointed me to Milam Green. Does she have involvement there, or is that
I
just
don't think she's part
unconnected?
of Milam Green. I do, but she is part of Still Austin from Texas, which is getting
Okay.
a lot of attention right now. And she puts these Joseph Magnus cigar blends together. I think she has a long, illustrious career. I have not done all the research on it because we haven't met her yet. But Nancy, are you
Can
watching?
I add that something that one thing I learned? It took me a long time to realize that what a cigar blend was. I thought it somehow had notes of tobacco or something, but as you guys now know, but I'm going to say it for anyone listening who was a dummy like me, is that cigar blends are have a little bit more of a sweetness that, if you were enjoying a cigar at the same time, would be a wonderful balance with that cigar. So as soon as I realized that it didn't taste like an ashtray, I was much more curious about trying cigar blends.
Well, that's a very and that's a new thing, right? Finished bourbons finished in an ashtray is what. Maybe that's our thing, guys.
That's the Dan
program.
finish.
Well,
That's
I'll
the
never
Dan
forget
special
when
is
we
what it is,
were
yeah.
we were at Bardstown And I don't even know what we were drinking, but I said to Mitch, I was like, "Oh my God, Mitch, taste this." I was like, "What does it taste like to you?" And he's like, "Your cigarettes." I was like, "All right, well,
Like, duh.
but
Speaking of
what are you drinking,
Bardstown,
pal?"
this is what I'm
Ooh.
drinking. I'm drinking some Bardstown. So this was bought at our filming of season 2. We didn't do it at Bardstown.
Wait,
but
this
that's
show
what I picked
got
it up.
renewed, Mitch?
I mean,
Before anything aired. It's wild. Unprecedented.
There was a lot of negotiations
when
to
it's
see if
when
we
it's
could-
self-funded, renewed is
No, don't tell people that. Don't tell people that. Listen, Squid Game was not renewed before they proved themselves season 1. We are, and this is the drop. Today is the drop for Squid Game season 2. And we were.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Think
is?
of all the people, the other
Why am I
Bungknockers
talking to you
who
guys?
died getting down to this 4, just like Squid Game.
So, Mitch, tell me about that, because I
Poor
left a day
Josh.
early because it was my wife's birthday. And so I did not get to hang
Yes.
out with the
Poor
three of you,
Josh.
with Graham, Brennan, and Mitch.
So we went to a event that night by a I don't know what you would call them, a group, a couple
Bourbon
of
lore.
people
Collective?
called Bourbon Lore, a
Bourbon
collective.
lore. Dan probably knows the bourbon lore.
Well, I Bourbon Lore, but I don't know what you called them. It's just, as far as I know, it's a guy with a vast collection. They did a blend with Bardstown. That's a blend of. Ooh, actually, I think it's on here. Oh, it doesn't say it outright, but as we were told, it was like a 11-year wild turkey and like a 1% rye and from Bardstown and a couple others. I can't remember exactly, but
You had
it's
raved
very
about
good.
it.
I believe it's tied together with
I have.
tied together
It's-
with a book launch. And
Yes.
there's a gentleman I believe who works for Justin's House of Bourbon. I've seen him in the socials. And I'm like, I think he's that guy. He had a collection of all these amazing photos, and he went to the Bourbon Lore people and said, "Do you think there's something
Justin?
to it?" And the Bourbon Lore people said, "Let's make it into a book." So this is actually, it was a book launch. And they released this special Bardstown bottle.
We'll rub it
to
in.
go
I
along with it.
had a great night with my wife. I did not. She was so mad. But I cooked dinner.
You had a great night at the airport.
And the Merchants Club.
Oh, the Merchants Club, my friends. If you can go to, it's Covington, yes?
The Party Source.
The Party Source in
Covington.
Covington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
The
Or Newport.
the greatest
Newport, yeah.
store ever. And we're going to get into Party Source and New Riff along later down along the line. But one of the greatest stores, and the founder of it is now the owner of the New Riff distilling, and they make some of the most amazing bourbon. In fact, their 8-year-old New Riff is Mitch's, I think, top of your list, pal, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I'm on bottle number 9 right now.
Wow.
Maybe 10.
Drink responsibly, folks.
Brandon, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a
Margarita.
Buffalo Trace single barrel that's 8 years old.
Ooh.
Nice.
This was one that was tracked down from
Oh,
Dan. You
buddy,
found
is
this?
the store
right?
pick from California? Yes.
The store pick, the 8-year-old, yeah. So it's like 8-year-old Buffalo Trace.
How old is Buffalo
About
Trace
5 or
typically?
6, I believe. But
4
they
or 5, 6.
yeah, but they
Fascinating.
occasionally there'll be single barrel store picks that are 8 years old, and they're like divine, absolutely divine.
That's
It's
amazing.
a cherry bomb.
I don't want to
Listeners,
get into this.
Well, are we going to
Brandon,
get into
this is
this?
the first time Brandon has said
do
cherry bomb.
feel like I always like to give stuff away. My wife and I, we always do this because we hate secrets. And it's like, oh, I have a present for you. It's like, well, what's the present? Just tell me what the present is. So the present with Brandon is that everything is either a cherry bomb or it's a little too hot.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes both.
So I feel like
Most
this
of the
might,
time, both.
this
Most
might
of the
be a
time, both,
drinking game moving forward. When you watch the episodes, how many times does Brandon say cherry bomb, and how many times does he drink it, ponder, and go, "It's a little hot. It's a little hot."
Well,
What if the first thing Brandon says on camera in like episode 2 is cherry bomb? That would be really great timing if we
It might
predicted it.
be.
I think the first time I actually speak, I think the first time I speak on camera is at Old Forester, and it's me saying, "Am I dumb?" So that'll be another catchphrase.
And I'm gonna,
That's a shirt.
I want the audience to tune in. I want them to watch, but I'll tell them right now: the answer was and is yes.
Resounding. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Brandon, everything Brandon says will become merch slogans
So,
for
guys,
the show.
I pick my words.
Guys,
very
I'd
carefully
be
for that
remiss.
reason.
I mean,
Yeah.
part of this, I want to be able to reflect on the episode that we just launched, our experience there. But I think at Woodford, right after we dropped episode 1, and we're a week away from dropping episode 2. But before that, going back to the whole question of who the hell are we? Um, I can't help but share a very quick and fun story with the audience. So Graham and I have known each other for almost the better part of 2 decades. We worked on the Broadway together a million years ago. And I got into bourbon, actually probably the latest, or maybe I think it was Graham and I that were probably the latest guys to get into bourbon. Mitch, I think you were the first because you were into this pre-pandemic. And Brandon, I don't even know, were you into this pre-pandemic ish?
I was I was buying, like, in my early 20s. I would buy like, Eagle Rare for $30 for like make old fashions for my friends and stuff. So I wasn't like chasing bourbon for bourbon's sake, but yeah, I mean, I drank it back when it was really easy to get a hold
Well,
of.
I get into this in the episode in with my obsession, but I thought, what a great idea for a show. Always thinking about a show as my background kind of dictates, but I thought, well, wait a minute, this is so freaking cool. This the culture of bourbon, and I got really into it, and I love being a novice about it. I love just picking up random bottles and having different reactions to them. And the more that I started reading about them, the more interested I was in the brand, and it sort of changed my perspective on it. I mean, quite honestly, guys, having experienced what we've experienced at, I don't know how many distilleries we've been to, 15 now, but looking at Woodford Reserve specifically, I don't you feel closer to that brand having been down there and meeting the people that make it? And I don't know, to me it's more meaningful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I One of the things that originally fascinated me about this whole world was watching that documentary Neat on Amazon Prime at the time, and just realizing like how so much of it is connection to people, like the people who make it, the people you drink it with, yourself, the farmers, all that stuff. Like that's kind of the magic of it, which makes it exciting to me, is knowing that like it's not just like a drink that you add a bunch of shit to in a recipe and you're done. There's so much nature involved and
You're
humanity.
100%. You're romantic, Mitch.
I know.
But Freddie Johnson at Buffalo Trace is so articulate about that notion, right? And has such an interesting story about the very very special bottle of Pappy that was gifted to him. Being a 3rd generation employee and a legend in the business, really. And how his father, we won't give it away, but how it's like, open your stuff, enjoy it with the people that you care about. That's really where the meaning comes from, in our trailer as well. But anyway, so I've known Graham forever, and I introduced Graham. I think I didn't introduce you to bourbon, Graham, because you famously met your wife doing a production of 1776 where you both were not in the second act. So you would spend the second act getting to know each other and drinking Blanton's. Am I right?
That's true. That's true. We would everyone would go downstairs to start the second act, and I would. There was one other actor who only had one scene, and it was at the very end.
Was
of
he
the
after
act.
your
So
wife?
he would
Graham?
also
Was he
be
after
there.
her?
No, he was just a very lovely man, and he kind of was our chaperone because my wife and I were kind of flirting, kind of getting to know each other. And I would sort of lean back and shout out the door, the bar's open, and she would come over, and we would have a bottle we were working on, and those bottles would rotate. And I distinctly remember the little horse statue at the time, and we would pour like a fingerful of bourbon, sip, the three of us, and talk about our day, because we were Kate and I we weren't living there, so we were new and on adventures every day, and it was great. It was a wonderful way to. So you're right. You did introduce me, but I did when I met you. You did take me a lot further down the rabbit
you
hole.
would come over. This was, as the pandemic, it was still going on, but we were aligning ourselves with the people we trusted to come over to our houses and this and that and the other thing. And you've been almost a lifelong friend of mine, quite frankly. And you would come over and I would share things with you. And wouldn't you know, you said, I know these two guys, Mitch and Brandon. Mitch draws Batman for DC, and he's a fan of this show that I work on, the No Sleep podcast, where Brandon Boone is a composer and you, Graham, are a voice actor for. And we have been pondering a bro trip, for lack of a better. Well, no, it's a bro trip. There's nothing wrong with,
Yeah. We all live in different cities, so we were going to go on a big date.
You guys were going to go on a big date, and then I was like, well, I want to shoot this shit and make it a show. Can I crash it? And I think fast forward, I got you guys to change your plane tickets. We all have children, all four of us. We abandoned our kids on Halloween to check in the Galt House Hotel in Louisville, Kentucky, and we shot season 1 for a week.
For a week.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be 3 days originally, right?
It was originally.
Yeah.
And then it went to 5, and then it went to 7.
I remember most of that trip.
Just
It was
not
great.
the
We learned that no one wants to see us on the weekends.
That's right.
We learned that if you're shooting a TV show about distilleries, you should do Monday to Friday.
My friends, and I'm going to say this out loud. It was instant love with all three of you, and Graham's been my friend forever. But I instantly, just by osmosis, I felt like we established something very special, and I knew you guys were very special, and I love the passion that we share for this drink. For this very specific slice of culture, Americana, and how it intersects with what we do, the creative process and trial and error, and succeeding and failing and coming up with something super special, or a near miss, or it's like literally, as the more people we spoke to at the various distilleries, the more it went hand in glove to the stuff that we do on a daily basis. Is that too
Absolutely.
romantic, or?
No, spot on. It's I'm obsessed with like improv comedy and stuff in that world. And when I listen to those podcasts, when it's those guys just talking about what they do, all of a sudden you're like, well, that's exactly what it's like, what I do. And then it was the same going to, I think it's just creative endeavors, which I think bourbon really is. And
sure.
Obviously we're all part of creative endeavors.
Are you having a stroke, Mitch?
I think, it just comes through. I'm having a stroke. I haven't had my first sip yet.
Smile for me.
Can't be that.
Smile, Mitch. Oh, good. Okay, you're fine.
It's happening. Finally.
Is that the thing? If someone's having a stroke, you say smile for me, and if they can't smile,
they don't smell toast. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What if it's cinnamon
you're
toast
fucked.
crunch?
What?
I had a good run.
What if what if they make so they scowl and they say, "Bring me the jam"? Then you know they're in trouble.
If you say if they say bring me the lawnmower, you're in more trouble.
Okay, whoa. That is a cliff. That's another cliffhanger. We are not going there right now. Brandon
That's like
Boone.
episode 7.
Yeah, that people have to get to know us a little more intimately.
A little Easter egg for you.
Yeah.
So the notion of whiskey and bourbon influencing us, it's funny. There was that very close connection. Even in episode 1, Elizabeth was talking about one-offs and talking about innovation, where you try something and people react either positively, negatively, or somewhere in between, and then it can just sort of go away. Woodford Reserve is a sort of gold standard in the industry. So there's a whole lot of work to maintain that standard and to push the envelope, but they still experiment. I feel like every project I do, I just directed a production of Fiddler on the Roof, which is as old as time, right? And when I accepted the job, I thought, well, my goal is to not F up Fiddler on the Roof. Everybody loves Fiddler on the Roof. Dan, if you do the first production of Fiddler on the Roof where people are like, that's okay, you've screwed up. So I recognize the sort of quality control element to things, versus things that are a little more experimental. And to hear Elizabeth talk about that in episode 1, I thought was like, damn.
Brandon.
Oh my God. Do we have to throw a graphic up? One of the most, we're going to throw a graphic up just for Brandon's family in Ohio. Only.
I didn't ask.
That didn't make any sense.
Why did that get turned from like targeted at Mitch to me?
I think
Brandon, this bit's dumb.
Is good.
This bit sucks.
It's not stuck. And that's a season 2 reference. And I want to see a list of productions of Fiddler on the Roof in Ohio. Brandon.
I like how you got roped into this.
What I would like to draw a parallel with, which I didn't initially realize, was that you talk about someone like Woodford Reserve, who, if someone goes into a store, they are planning to buy Woodford Reserve. They know what it tastes like. They can count on it always tasting the way they want it to taste. They expect it to taste, and how a huge part of the business of Woodford Reserve and some of these other distilleries we went to is being consistent and maintaining that consistency, that you almost don't think they're going to have outlets for creativity. And that was surprising to me that they do. And then I think about what I do, which is I am given other people's words to say and to someone else's story and bringing it to life. And for me, the parallel there is I have to do what has been set out for me, but finding within that my own ability to express myself. So I think there's a really cool parallel. I didn't quite know that going into this adventure.
Yeah, and I can't draw a straight line to save my life unless I'm drinking.
Stops the shaking.
It's a shame that we had to drop Mitch after season 2. Well, everybody was, like making these sort of poetic metaphors, responsible, and meant it. Mitch is.
Look, if things get too serious, I'll start to cry and my life will fall apart. So I wish I could
hug you right
Here's
now.
to that.
We can't kick Mitch off the show.
I wish I could hug you and Sabrina Carpenter on your shirt right now.
Me both, brother.
Wait, okay. So we know Brandon's drinking a Buffalo Trace single barrel. We know that Graham is drinking a Joseph Magnus cigar blend. And we know that Mitch is drinking a very special bourbon lore version of Bardstown. I am drinking my number.
Oh, yeah.
I love doing it because I love sports and I love to. There always has to be a winner.
Field of Dreams.
No, this okay. Here we go. Ready? I'm drinking my number 3 bourbon of 2024. What's number 1 for me?
The number?
Is it
Russell's.
the glass baseball or the glass football?
They work
I hope it's a
very
glass
hard,
baseball.
Mitch, to put their stuff together.
Is it Oh, it's Chestnut Farms,
Mitch?
isn't it?
There goes our sponsorship with Total Wine. What is wrong with you?
Oh, yeah.
So we know Russell's 15
Russell
is your number
15
one. Your number two would be
Booker's The Reserves is my number 2, and my number 3 is Larceny A124 from the Heaven Hill Company, which we will visit and will be part of season 2, and it is delicious. 124.2 proof. Their first release, they do three of these releases. a cherry.
Smell the cherry from here.
Cherry's galore.
cherry from here.
So this, they put out 4 expressions a year, a quarterly release.
They do 3, yeah,
3. All right. And people chase these down like they chase down the stags, and I have yet to try. I'm like, it's just another avenue that I'm like, I bet some of it's great, but I have yet to go down the road.
What's the other larceny? So there's A124 and then
5 B
C
20 some 24. It's all 24, right?
C.
Yeah, B and
What's
C.
B?
And Elijah Craig does the same thing. They
Yeah.
have 3 releases every year for their barrel proof stuff,
Right.
as well. But yeah, I'm just a giant fan. I love it. I like to taste my whiskey.
Can we cut that?
No.
This is really uncomfortable for everybody.
I need an adult.
I'd love to know just your thoughts. Seen episode 1 drop. Have a nice little cliffhanger, as we've the aforementioned cliffhanger to get into episode 2 before we move on to the next distillery. What are your thoughts? Us having this channel and us doing this show, and your impressions of seeing all of this come together as it pertains to episode 1 and Woodford, our experience there.
It's so much more professional than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
And that's all our director,
so
Holly Ann Tuckett.
we have our director, Holly Ann Tuckett, and her army of assistants and editors in Hale Scherf and Dane Linford and Anna Dorodnik. We have the most amazing production photographer and Rick Garrity. We got a lot of good people, man. But the professionalism of what you took away from the experience. The
Honestly,
fact that
yes.
it didn't suck,
I think
is like what your takeaway was, Mitch.
Not didn't suck. That it was just more put together than I thought it was going to be in a fantastic way.
Yeah.
That first episode is fantastic. All the B-roll they shot, which I knew they went out and shot it, but like I never saw any of it, obviously. To see that and just how it was all put together, and Holly's sense of like comedic timing and stuff.
So this is occupational hazard, right? I guess for all 4 of us being creatives, because we're like, yeah, content, my experience with Woodford, listening to the information. You were actually focused more on the actual filmmaking of it.
Well, you asked. I mean, I learned everything from the show and the people that we met and all that, but like the thing that hit me the most watching that first episode is, damn it, we got a show here.
Brandon?
This is good shit.
Yeah. I just wish I would have spoken less. You know,
I think Graham.
No, I want.
Do not say I stepped on him.
I wanted to. I'll just echo what Mitch said. Honestly, like I felt like weirdly out of place. I'm a post-production guy. I'm not used to being on camera and stuff like that. So to see myself in that environment, with how professional everything was, I was like, I don't belong there. Be on camera less, Brandon.
Did you read? You read a lot of the comments on our. Yeah,
I did.
It.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Never read the comments.
Clearly.
I get really
all from
taken
me,
down
but-
several pegs.
Graham, what was your takeaway, pal?
What was interesting is that when we first met Holly and we discovered We met her because we were in need of help when we went up to Salt Lake City, and it was only after meeting and working with her that we discovered her background and her extensive background as a documentary filmmaker. And so I then watched one of her films, and so even though I didn't know what was going to come out this week, I knew that if Holly was editing it, it was going to be great. So it was exactly what I imagined Holly was going to produce. And so I had it was still a surprise as to how the pieces were going to come together. I thought the cliffhanger was brilliant. There were wonderful moments of levity that I was hoping for. And it's just paced and balanced so well with the information interspersed with comedy. It was
Well,
everything I
I
hoped it
think
would be.
tone is the major thing here, right? Because as we go from distillery to distillery, and I think it's worth noting that I think we knew each other as a group for less than 48 hours when we shot Woodford Reserve. Like we did not know it. We checked into the hotel, gave each other hugs, poured a drink. We did not know each other, and I don't think that comes across, quite frankly. So I was sort of marveling in that sort of notion as well. But what I love about it, and I love about what's to come, is that this is not a show where we are trying to be experts on bourbon, that we're trying to pick
God,
up.
no.
We're fans. We all enjoy this. It's a part of our lives. There's a connectivity to what we do in our professions. We romanticize it a bit, but we're always going to have fun. And we're always going to take the mickey out of anything that might seem pretentious. I mean, I've spent my entire life with people thinking that what I do, directing Broadway musicals, and I'm sure with Graham, and God, I'm sure even more so with Brandon, maybe less with you, Mitch, because the sort of worldwide popularity of comic
Everybody
books.
doodles.
But that we take ourselves too seriously, or we don't, and we want to respect the craft of this. We want to learn more about it. But to me, what's exciting is about finding the commonality with people that I didn't think I would connect to. And I felt welcomed. I felt a warm, as what does Christina, the marketing manager at Peerless, say? A warm Kentucky hug every time we went.
Kentucky hug.
To another place, and I thought, oh, this is cool. This is, we can share this. It doesn't matter what you do or where you come from. There's some commonality here.
Yeah.
Can I add one last thing, Dan, which was something you touched on earlier, which is Elizabeth McCall, and what to be the master distiller of something like Woodford Reserve, and to take four doofuses who come in and to treat us with grace, with warmth, and her own sense of play and comedy, and such deep knowledge of of making bourbon. I thought for our first episode, what an amazing person to have as a focus and as a voice for bourbon.
Pleasure. Love you boys immensely. And I'll see you again after episode 2, which will air shortly. For you to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell on our YouTube channel. Come check us out. Check out our trailer. Check out episode 1. Episode 2 will be dropping shortly. And these podcasts, they will be part of our YouTube channel, but they will also be part of your friendly neighborhood preferred podcast, whatever, whether it be Spotify or Apple or iHeart, etc. So choose to listen. But we thank you for your support, and we'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Love it. person that made me feel weird, and that person's name will not be uttered. And nothing, not Woodford, not Old Forester, nothing at Brown Foreman. In fact, we did not. Uh,
What
Help
whole like Dan?
me.
Yeah,
Stop
that'll be the
digging.
subscribers.
Stop
That'll be the
digging. Start
Patreon.
climbing,
Oh,
buddy.
boy.
You're in trouble here.
The Patreon exclusive
this
episode.
is what happens
We'll
when
tell
you
that story.
drink barrel proof, right? I only had a couple of ounces.
Yeah.
Dan, 90 proof and below when you're doing the podcast.
I chose 90 for a reason, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
guys, this is a real pleasure. Love you boys immensely. And yeah, I'll see you again after episode 2, which will air